guys, what's up? How are you doing? Just finished pouring my drink. Hope everything's going well with you. I see no one is in yet, so I'll just give it a couple of seconds till everyone joins. We're gonna talk about a couple of things tonight, so hopefully stuff goes well. It's in your control tonight, so I want to talk about a couple of things, a couple of topics I do have on offer are these couple of ones. Maybe Springbok Showdown, maybe South Africa in the Pro 14 now. I don't know, the Cheetahs now being out, the Kings being left in the dark, the Rugby Championship, Super Rugby Unlocked, and the Currie Cup. I don't know, there's a couple of topics on hand. What do you think we can talk about? Where are you guys watching from? I see there's a couple of guys tuning in at the moment. Where are you guys tuning in from? Remember, this is going to be all up to you. For your drinks, we're going to have a lacquer chat tonight. We're going to be a little bit of a more relaxed vibe. It's not going to be pushed so that we do finish up with the topic quickly. I want to hear from you what you want to talk about tonight. So guys, where are you tuning in from tonight? What do you want to talk about? There's a lot of things to talk about. There's a lot of rugby news at the moment, with the Cheetahs being kicked out and the Pro 14, with the South African teams joining the Pro 14, Pro 16 now. No, Grant, don't worry. I think I came in a bit early. Usually I come 5 minutes late. But hey, how are you doing? How's the desert treating you? I'm drinking out of my Cheetah glass. Probably the last time I'll be able to do that in one of these videos. So hopefully all goes well tonight. How was your week, guys? What do you guys want to talk about? There's a lot of rugby news at the moment. I think the biggest one is South African teams going now to the Pro 16 and the Cheetahs being kicked out. I think that's the biggest one. We can talk about that definitely, but we can also talk about the the Springbok Showdown that's tomorrow. That's definitely something we can talk about, because I mean, it's big things. It's big rugby up against the two teams up against each other. The teams are very strong, and it's young talent coming through as well. I've decided I have to do this tonight because I'm gonna go insane. I've been quarantined like for the last week, so I had to do something because, man, what else do you do on a Friday night? So I want to talk about rugby a little bit. So let me know what you guys want to talk about tonight. Where are you guys tuning in? Oh, first game of cricket of the season. Nice and hot. I'm back in my jacket. The weather's been weird over here. It's been raining the whole day. So yeah, well, first game of cricket. I'm very bad at cricket. So yeah. Guys, other guys, where are you guys tuning in from? What do you guys want to talk about? There's a couple of topics I want to talk about. The biggest one is this one. The Cheetahs being out now. That's a big topic to discuss. I also want to get to that Springbok Showdown tomorrow. I'm very excited for that one. But yeah, don't know how things are going to go there. Thoughts on the Cheetahs leaving the Pro 14? Big issue for me. It's not, look, I'm not a Cheetah supporter, even though I do have this. I am from Bloemfontein, so I've watched a lot of Cheetah rugby. I've grown up with it. So to me, them being left in the dark yet again is probably one of the biggest or the saddest things in South African rugby. I mean, how can they be left out once again? I understand there's only 4 spots up for grabs in the Pro 14. It's not really SA rugby that can make the decisions there, but I mean, really, these guys have been in the Pro 14 for years now. They haven't done half bad. They've been like in the middle, and you could see they're growing. They have a lot of players coming in. I mean, Frans Steyn, Roscoe Spickman, Rowan Pienaar, what happens to those guys now? Are they just going to leave the team again? I mean, I can promise you they came to that team with the thoughts of actually playing big rugby. So now those guys, what are they going to do? We're not even going to see Frans Steyn in a big tournament. Are we? Is he just going to play in the Super Rugby Unlocked? The Cats, the Lions Cheetahs team. I actually thought of that the other day. I just, for interest's sake, there's an Afrikaans page that I do follow on Facebook, and I just commented on there to see what the guys do think of a Cats team. Mostly people weren't very happy with that idea at all. Look, but to me, I thought, why not? It is an option. I don't think it would happen. Really don't think it would happen. But I mean, if you join those two teams together at the moment, think of that back line. You have Ruan Pinaar, Elton Jantjies, then you have Frans Steyn. You have a couple of youngsters like William Smallsmith. He's not a youngster anymore, but Roscoe Speckman joins that. You have Russ from the Lions. You have Simelane from the Lions. Skosan. That could be a very good team. And let's face it, even though the Lions have been in finals a couple of times in Super Rugby, they're not the best team in South Africa. If I had to rank the teams, I would probably say those other three do get the favorite positions. The Bulls, the Sharks, and the Stormers are probably favorites. They've always been favorites in South Africa. If you just go by following and fan base, they do have the biggest following on social media, at least. I have looked into it as well. So I don't know. I would love to see the Cats form again. I do think it's an interesting thought, but I doubt it would actually happen. I think if it were to happen, the Lions would probably think they are like the majority stakeholder or the bigger union of the two, so they would probably want most of the games there. But you could work something like that out and have like a third of the home games in Bloemfontein. But I don't know, man. I really doubt we'll see Cats team reform. South Africa is very provincial still. We still believe in our provinces. I know I see Gregor, you're an Ulster fan. You guys are also very set in your provinces. You guys don't want to like merge teams. And over here, it's also not a big idea over here. But I thought of the idea as well. Maybe like putting the Kings with the Stormers, I don't know, and the Lions and the Cheetahs, join them again. Maybe it could work, but I highly doubt something like that would happen. The Cheetahs taking them to court. Sorry, Grant, I missed that one completely. Latest news on that, we'll probably hear by tonight, because there was a board meeting over here in Bloemfontein today to see like what they're going to do, what's their decision, because what SA Rugby is trying to do with the Cheetahs at the moment is kind of force them into that Super 8 tournament that's going to be basically all the guys that's left out in the Southern Hemisphere. So it looks like it would be 3 New Zealand teams, 3 Australian teams, 1 South African team, 1 Argentinian team, 1 Japanese team. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's the 8. So I don't know. That's the teams they're talking about. But I think for the Cheetahs, that wouldn't be something they would prefer. To me, as a viewer, that Super 8 tournament does sound like a little bit of a second string tournament. Doesn't sound like the biggest tournament to watch. Okay, and yeah, I understand what you're saying, that the players were just too different, or the teams were just too different. But if you have to think of them at the moment, the Lions and the Cheetahs have a very similar style. They are both running style teams. Both of them kind of have the same coaches, trying to do the same thing as well. I do think maybe compared to previously, or to the previous Cats, they are a little bit more similar teams to be joined together than the previous time. But yeah, the Cheetahs players were screwed over, and they will probably be screwed over this time again. But the bad thing to me is that the Cheetahs actually brought in big names for a change, because they were actually starting to generate some money from this Pro 14 at the moment. So that's a horrible part to me. They actually started to bring in some youngsters as well, again from Grey College, which has been their breeding ground for years. It stopped maybe for 5 or so years, and now they started to restart with that again. And then Frans Steyn and those big guys. I mean, Bismarck du Plessis was also in talks to come back here as well. So that's the horrible part to me, that they will actually have some plans to go to work to the future in Pro 14 and actually win it. That's what they were talking about, and now this happens. Oh, I see. Yeah, and you actually went through the old Super 12 fixtures, and that's not right. If you want to combine franchises and you just neglect those the other venue completely. So I don't think that's going to work. What I do like, something about Australian rugby that's been happening in these last couple of years, like the Waratahs, they've been doing it now most recently. They play like 1 or 2 games in their home stadium, and then they play most of their games in other stadiums or scattered around uh, their province, which actually works pretty well. Uh, it's not so much connected to the whole Cheetahs thing, but I do like what they do, and I think a lot of teams should do the same thing. But yeah, the Cheetahs are out now, nothing to do about that. The lawsuits or taking SA Rugby to court, don't know what's going to happen there. If they do take them to court at the end of the day, I do think they will win it, because they do have a binding contract to be in that thing. So they will win it, and they will probably get some good money from SA Rugby. But what do they do from that then at the end of the day? It's not like they'll be able to draw a lot of young players or a lot of big players to a team that doesn't play in big competitions. And I mean, that's probably going to happen now to mostly the Kings. The Kings, remember the Cheetahs, they are in a bad place being kicked out of the Pro 14. But remember, the Kings, they have exactly the same thing, but they don't even have another tournament to talk about. They've been liquidated. They have literally nothing. Their players are going to be scattered all about. I see CJ Falaman, he is going to play for the Griquas now. At least he's going to be paid this time. He said wants to play for free, but I highly doubt they would have not paid him. They did say they're going to try and pay him for this. Yeah, let me just read here. Yeah, Grant, here what you're saying, a Cheetahs Sharks combo would be probably the best combo that you would find, because if you just think of the big names in Sharks rugby in the past, does come from the Cheetahs. If you think of du Plessis, Bismarck, and Yanni, if you think of Ruan Pienaar, if you think of Frans Steyn, if you name the player, he comes from here probably. So that would be a lethal team. But I really don't think they would combine teams at all. I think the future of South African rugby probably is going that way. Well, now that we're going to the Pro 14, it looks like we'll try and generate a little bit more money. We'll probably generate a little bit more money. So we're probably going to have a better situation in a couple of years from now. But I thought at a stage that our future is probably to reduce our franchises, or kind of force our franchises together and have your provinces represented in Currie Cup. Get your franchises, new franchises, and put them together. I don't know. That's what I thought would probably happen, especially with the money situation at the moment. But the Pro 14 is gonna give South African rugby a lot of money. It's good money over there. I think the team that gets last place almost gets the same amount of revenue than the team that gets first place in Super Rugby. So it's good money over there, because in Super Rugby the costs of flying and that type of stuff is just more expensive because of all the time zones and that type of stuff. Do you think? I do think so, actually. I do think that the Cheetahs being kicked out of the Pro 14 now is going to serve for very good competition. I think we're going to see the best out of them. I think with them being kicked out now, we'll probably see them forcing these other teams to defeats. I actually want to get to that. I can't predict a winner for this tournament whatsoever. It's a very difficult stage at the moment, but yeah, I think the Cheetahs are probably going to be a lot better than they would have been. I thought they're going to be good, but now it's probably going to be even better. They might even win the Currie Cup and the Super Rugby Unlocked. At the moment, I probably would have seen them as one of the favorites to win the Super Rugby Unlocked because of us probably going to the Rugby Championship. So a lot of these other players from the other unions would probably not represent their club. So the best players aren't going to be in their club. So I did think the Cheetahs are probably favorites. But now that this has happened, I definitely think they stand a chance. With the Currie Cup, though, that's going to be the best of the best teams. I don't know how that's going to happen, how that's going to work, but the Cheetahs always want to win the Currie Cup. That's always been their baby. So I think they could win both of it. Don't know. It's a difficult one to call. To me, I want to see what the Griquas and the Kings do. Not the Griquas and the Pumas. I think those are the guys that I have no idea what's going to happen because let's face it, they don't have the players, they don't have the big names, they don't have the money. I I see it might be a hard one for them, but if you don't know it, most of the big names or some of the big names in South African rugby does come from the Kings, from the Pumas, and from the Griquas. So they have a couple of young guys coming through, but most of those young guys have been bought up from the Bulls now. A lot of the Bulls, or Jake White has bought a lot of the Pumas guys now as well. So don't know how they're gonna do. Any other topics, guys? What's your thoughts on the Springbok Showdown tomorrow? What do you think's gonna happen over there? That's gonna that's gonna be entertaining. I think it's probably one of the most entertaining bits of rugby we're ever gonna see in this country. I hope it becomes more of a normal thing, something we see every year. But I think the Springbok Showdown is gonna be absolutely brilliant tomorrow. Just the matchups in that game is completely two Springbok sides up against each other. Yeah, the unlocked name. I also read it the other day. Uh, there was an explanation of it that uh, they unlocked the competition pool now. That it's not just the 4 franchises now. They unlocked it for 3 other franchises as well to win it. But that being it, that's quite a stupid name actually. Aotearoa meant literally the Maori word for New Zealand. So that was a cool name for me. I actually like that one. ESPN. I last time I checked, I didn't see they're gonna show it. But ESPN Plus they do show these kind of things. They just change it last second, so it could actually happen. Who knows? But I wouldn't put my hopes up. Kate Voliter next Springbok fly half. I think he's bloody good. I think he is very good. Next Springbok fly half though, I don't think next World Cup. Who knows? It's 4 years or 3 years from now. Who knows? But he's definitely gonna be a Springbok one day. I do think he's gonna represent us at a World Cups at some stage, but I don't want to talk him up too much. I mean, we've had a lot of big guys that has just never lived up to their name. Johan Goosen being one. Yes, he has a couple of caps behind his name, but it's just he's never lived up to what they said he's going to be. William Small-Smith is probably one of the biggest upsets to what he should have been. I think to me, that's what I really think. Yeah, the Springbok Showdown is going to be absolutely brutal. Oh, I actually have this list over here of all the players. if you can't remember all of them. Sorry, I'm struggling with all of this. Okay, yeah, it's actually going to be very brutal, I think, if you look at all those names. Valdo, I'll get to your comment now. Uh, just looking at it, when you see those two front rows with Nche and De Bruyne, I actually forgot that they did play together at the Cheetahs. In my preview video, I completely forgot to mention that that's basically an ex-Cheetah front row or props there. So how they go up against Kitsov there in the front row is that's gonna be one of the matchups in this game for me. But I think the biggest matchup, well, the smallest matchup that everyone's looking at is probably Nohamba versus Yankees. I want to see how that goes. Nohamba is a guy that we can talk about as a future Springbok. At this moment, we can talk about him as being a Springbok at the moment because, wow, he was good before we actually went into lockdown. And this, yes, yeah, this is a good comment, Valdo. Jan Serfontein and Rowan Jansen van Rensburg. Jan Serfontein, actually, I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't know what he's up to at the moment. He's not been like listed a lot as a brilliant player in France at the moment. But Rowan Jansen van Rensburg, he's making wins over there in England at the moment. I think it is his time to be back in the Springbok fold again. I really do think so. Hopefully in this rugby championship, we do see some of these English guys or some of these guys that do play in England and in France do come and join these youngsters because they're the guys that have been playing this whole time. So hopefully we do see some of them actually join up with him. The two De Pria brothers, I really hope they do play there. They've been brilliant, especially Jean-Luc Du Preez. I think he's our short-term solution at the number 5 lock at the moment. Yes, the European-based players are available for this match. That's how last time I checked, they are available for this match. It's just whether Rassie does decide to pick them or not. But they are available for this match. He has said to Sale Sharks that he wants to pick their players actually for this tournament. So I do think we'll see a good mix there. Some Xbox guys that have been on the radar in the past, maybe guys like Akker van der Merwe, he's been brilliant overseas, but he's kind of fallen out of the mix a little bit. We've almost forgotten about him, and he's a brilliant player to be there, and I hope he does play. Hi TSG, yes, we're doing well. We're drinking a dop over here in South Africa. I hope the other guys are also drinking a dop. We're having a good chat. What topic do you want to discuss today? Any other matchup that you guys can't wait for? I think the Libbok Bosch matchup, when those two come on, that's also a good one because they're two teammates. Van Zyl and Papier. I want to see that because I've always ranked Papier higher than Van Zyl. Sorry if you disagree with me, but I do rank Papier higher than Van Zyl. They're two teammates in the Bulls team. Van Zyl gets more chances, so I hope Papier does show him up a little bit. Even though I am supporting Team Gold for tomorrow. What team are you guys supporting? I think Gold by 10 points. Oh, yeah, the Scotland, what's his name? Van der Merwe. It's Akker's brother. For some reason, his name has escaped me now. He's brilliant, but I highly, highly, highly doubt he's going to join us. As he's already said that he's going to join Scotland. He's already said that he has hopes to play against the Springboks in next year's Lions tour. So I don't think that he's actually going to play against us. What's the guy's name again? Duan van der Merwe. Almost forgot that for a while. Yeah, I just said that a little bit earlier, that Herschel Yankees versus Nohamba. That's going to be the big matchup for me in a different sense of the word. But yeah, I can't wait for that. The Trio Twins. Yeah, I agree, Grant. We saw Rob at the Western Province. He has moments where he's absolutely brilliant, where you can see he's probably one of the best fly-offs in the world. at that moment. Just with passes, he can cut the line as well. He's quite dominant in tackles as well. But other games, he misses in front of the poles. He just can't get the ball over. So that's a problem with Rob de Pria. But the two twins, they can be in that team any day. I do think at a time I did rank Dan de Pria a little bit higher because John Luke had a little bit of injury troubles at a stage, but at the moment for Sales Sharks, nah, no one better than John Luke. I think he's really kind of showed what he can do at the lock position. He's more of the rest of the world type of lock. The rest of the world plays with shorter locks that's under 2 meters tall. It's only like South Africa and a couple of players in New Zealand and Australia that's taller than 2 meters. It's mostly teams have 1.9, something like that, meter tall locks. So I do think he can do something for the Boks at the moment, but I think Rassie would probably use him at 7. Dan, I like him at number 8, but that's handling of Jean-Luc du Preez. He's just next level. Stormers for sure, man. No one else than the Stormers. Grant is a guy you should talk to as well. He's a big Stormers supporter. Yeah, I do have a Cheetahs cup here, or a glass, or it's not a glass. Yeah, tonight because of the kind of falling out of the whole Pro 14 thing. So that's why I do have the cup over there tonight. So guys, let me hear your predictions for this game here next to me. Let me put myself on full screen again. What's your predictions for tomorrow? I did say already that I have gold by 10 points. I think it's going to be an absolutely epic game. Probably not the best quality game. I think we're probably going to see a bit of handling errors, but I thought so before the Superfan Saturday, and handling was brilliant. But these teams are now a little bit of a mix, so they don't know each other that well. So I do think we'll probably see a little bit of issues over there in this game. It's a long story of me supporting the Stormers. So my dad supports the Stormers, so I kind of followed him. But the whole story about following the Stormers is basically my whole family comes from the Northern Cape. And back in those days, you kind of had to decide, do you support the Cheetahs or do you support the Western Province? Because the Griquas, they weren't really very relevant. They aren't relevant still. They just kind of feed their club. So my family all supports the Western Province, and it kind of happened that I just follow my dad, because I mean, he named me after Western Province player. I'm Tian, so I'm named after a Western Province player. I'm never gonna support someone else then. So definitely following that footsteps over there. And well, I have the same name as another Western Province player. My full name is Tian Liebenberg, and we had a Western Province player, and since I was a kid, I had to kind of go after him because, you know, that's how it works. Yeah, it's going to be a lacquer game. Sure. Brilliant game. I can't wait for it. I actually would have missed it because I would have been at a wedding tomorrow. But now I'm in quarantine because I was in close contact with someone with COVID. So here I am. Now I can watch the game. So win, lose, I don't know. For the Springbok Showdown, look out for Bosch coming on at 10 and Willemse moving to 12. Man, Grant, don't tempt me. You know I want to see Willemse at number 12. I don't know if that's going to happen. I've always wanted Willemse to stay or to play number 12. He just doesn't get that break. But he's played that at under 21. He played there at school as well sometimes. So I want to see that. So yeah. Yes, Grant. I'm named after the legend. I'm named after the legend. So you understand, I can't support someone else then. How can I support someone else after my dad actually got my mother to agree to name me after one of his big heroes. So yeah. And that's Storms because I live in Cat. Okay, I understand. But TSG, if you had to decide between one of the two, you'll probably decide to support the Sharks, right? Or who would you go for? Because that's always an interesting one for me. Because like my second team has always been the Cheetahs because I live here. But since they've kind of moved into the Pro 14 and stuff, I kind of supported the Lions as well, just because of their style of play. But yeah, oh, you actually support the Stormers, yeah, because you live there at the moment. So they're kind of this, no, not the same as I do. But yeah, interesting. Everyone has their own reason for supporting teams, so it's kind of strange actually. Uh, Over here in Bloemfontein, we have a lot of guys that support the Blue Bulls for some reason. They have no connection to the Bulls whatsoever, no connection to Pretoria whatsoever, but they support the Bulls. Strange thing. And probably the second biggest fan base of the Cheetahs do live in Johannesburg. I think that's probably that Cats connection. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can tell me that, but that's also a strange thing. Yeah, I actually heard that. I don't want to speak too much about that because I'm still waiting for my results. I went for a test today, so I don't want to speak too much about that. At the moment, my brandy tastes like water. So, yeah, the Cheetahs because of the color. I The Cheetahs, I've always liked them because of their style of play. They have a very different style of play than to traditional South African style of play. That's why I like them. They like running the ball. They've always liked they've always liked playing like that. So that's why I do support them, but or do like how they play. But in the USA, I'd probably go with Legion, just because there's a lot of South Africans there, and I saw that Africa is going there, South Africa, and who's the other guy? Bjorn Basson, he's also going there as well. Legion is probably a team that I support in the USA. I do watch them sometimes if I'm late up at night and I check out on Facebook and so on. I do watch the Russian competition as well sometimes because it's free on YouTube. If you do watch it, it was the only rugby that was on at a stage through this COVID. So then I watched the Russian rugby. I supported CSKA. I like them there because of that Russian captain that speaks in an Irish accent. He has that mustache. I liked him. Yeah, thanks, man. I feel fine at least. The symptoms I have are all the mild ones, so hopefully everything's fine. I'm just gonna have to work from home a little bit longer because I was actually supposed to start working uh, from next week at the office again because I've been at home for 6 months because of this whole lockdown thing. I've been working from home, so it's been a long time. Yeah, but let's see. Let's see what happens. Yeah, Werner Kok is a guy that can make that switch. Look, he has been at the Western Province before, and he didn't really live up to what I thought he would be because he's quite a physical guy in the sevens, and I thought that's the right kind of guy to play in the 15s. He didn't do that when he was at the Western Province, but yeah, the Western Province, we kind of have a knack of not using our wingers to their full potential. And I think at the Sharks, he might be used a little bit better. They're talking about using him at center. That's an interesting spot. At number 12, he would be a very physical tackler over there. 10-hour drive. Wow. Where do you live? Like, I thought that American teams were just like scattered all about over the whole country, aren't they? Sorry, I'm still learning a little bit about the American teams as our South African players do kind of move into it. Wow, that's very far. Do you like live in Alaska or something? No, probably not. But yeah, Are they going into their playoffs now? Last time I checked, I thought they were going into their playoffs because everyone was celebrating and there was fireworks the whole time and a DJ and stuff like that. So I actually thought it was playoff rugby. So that's quite a surprise. Uh, Chester, what time does it actually play? I forgot. I think it's like Wednesday nights, right? Wednesday or Thursday nights. It's actually a great night because it's on a night where we don't actually get other rugby over here in South Africa. So you can maybe just inform me there. I actually do enjoy that rugby. It's very slow though. I don't know if you also picked that up. The Russian rugby is a very slow. Like we think sometimes when a scrum is set up over here, it takes long because of resets and that stuff. Their scrums take ages, but the tries they do score and the long running tries they do score are second to none. Okay, yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, Abrar, I've heard of it. So nothing over there. You should maybe set up a team there. Maybe you should go play over there. What position would you play? TSG, go enjoy your dinner. If you do rush it, you can maybe catch us still now. Kareem, got to the Sharks have so many injuries. Yeah, I actually thought the same. I thought that the Sharks, before I knew what the injury list was, I actually thought that they would be the team with the most players in that squad. I did also think they would be the team that's represented the most in this rugby championship as well. So now with all those injuries, especially in that back three, that's harsh on them, but it does pull this whole tournament open again. The Super Rugby Unlocked, I would have backed them as favorites to win it, but now that they have all those injuries to guys that were their standouts this whole season or in the beginning of the year, now that that's happened, the tournament is a bit open. I do not know how to call it. I don't think I'd go with Lions to win it if I have to go like that. The Bulls looked really good. They looked really good. They played really well. They played this running style of rugby we haven't seen them play before. So it's difficult to say where they would go. The Sharks, I think they're probably still a team that could do something in the tournament. The Stormers also. So it's a difficult one to call, actually. Very difficult. You have Bulls versus Stormers. You're taking out the Sharks in that equation. No, they're a good team. I think they can do something there. I really do think they can do something there. Yeah, it is pretty slow. Sorry, Chester, I only got back to that now. The Russian rugby is pretty slow. They play in the day, not in the evenings. Okay, well, I watch it in the evening, so that's weird then because I watch it on their YouTube channel, the Russian rugby. So over here I watch it at night. So I think the one time I watched it like this time, like 6 o'clock on a Wednesday or a Thursday. I don't know, but their time zone is different. But yeah. Abras, you and some of your friends play in the park sometimes. Scrum half, 5'5". Okay, yeah. You you're no Hamba guy. Are you nippy as well? Take the short sides and that type of stuff. Yeah. Now scrum half. Hey, winger is also a spot. I was always placed in a place because in on a place where I can't tackle. So in a place like I was always on the wing, so that I shouldn't do any tackles because I'm a horrible tackler. I don't like the collision. It's not for me. And if you're surprised by the name SkinnyBru, I'm not a big guy, so dominant tackles isn't my thing. So I was always placed on the wing or the fullback, so I can just run it back. That's where I'm good because I just kind of slice through gaps. It's difficult to catch me, but that's about it. I understand that 15 aside, yeah, but I think the game's gonna pick up in America. I really do think so. With all the tournament, looks like it's kind of gaining a little bit of pace. What do you think? Does it look like the community is starting to kind of get rugby a little bit more? It looks like these days, if I look at it, that people are talking about it a little bit more, or is it just from my perspective? I understand. I understand. It's a this comment over here. It is a pretty young team. I do agree, but in the start of the year they were pretty young as well. I mean, Apelele Fasi, we didn't even know who he was in the start of the year, and well, now that he's injured, he's one of their big losses. So that's a horrible injury for them, and I think their youngsters can do something. But the Bulls youngsters, or those Sevens players they brought in, that Currie Arendse, wow, look out for that guy. I know he would have been in the Springbok Showdown, but now he missed it because of his flight. So that's horrible. I wanted to see him there. Looking forward to the Currie Cup. Yeah, Chester, I actually knew that. I'm looking forward to the Currie Cup. It's only a little bit later this year, the Currie Cup. It's only first the Super Rugby. I'm looking forward to the Currie Cup actually a little bit more than the Super Rugby Unlocked, because of the Rugby Championship that might be happening at the same time as the Super Rugby Unlocked, and all these injuries that we have now as well. So I'm hoping for like a full-fledged Currie Cup that means everything to the teams. Like if you look at the Cheetahs, they want to win the Currie Cup every single year. They've always kind of had their best team versus the other team's second teams or a little bit weakened teams. So they'd want to show to SA Rugby what they can do against the best teams, even though they've been cut. So I want to see what they can do. I think rugby is a lot more fun. I think that really helped. I think I can agree with you there. When all the sports were down and the Super Rugby was on, and it was probably one of the best rugby tournaments you can find, with one of the best rugby viewing countries you can find, because let's face it, they are one of the best countries to watch play or to see playing, New Zealand. So I think I fully agree with you there. If it wasn't for Aotearoa, the future of rugby over there might still have been the same, but because of it, it might have grown now a little bit, because Aotearoa now being the same next year as well, and people now watched it in this previous year, they might decide, listen, last year I loved it, I supported that team, I might decide to watch it this year again. So yeah, I do think that's actually a good move from there. The Cheetahs do have a point to prove. They would want to win this thing with everything they have. They would want to win this Currie Cup and just prove to SA Rugby, listen, you made a big mistake. Reevaluate things, because I think if they really like beat all the teams and all the teams are at their best, I think they could maybe get SA Rugby to change their mind, or get SA Rugby to maybe think, okay, listen, let's maybe consider just sending the best four teams. That's what the Cheetahs actually wanted. That's what they tried to get into vote, that the best four teams out of the Currie Cup has to be voted in. Uh, but SA Rugby decided differently because, like I said earlier, they do have the biggest social following. On social media, the other teams do have a bigger following, but the guys over in Cheetah country over here, it's not social media people, it's people that follow them to death. It's someone that would follow the team to death, but it's not people that follow them on Facebook and Twitter and that type of stuff. So big mistake over there from SA Rugby, in my opinion. Any other sports? I have to be honest, I'm basically solid rugby. I love my rugby. I don't really go into any other sports. I do watch MotoGP a little bit sometimes, not all the time, because of Brad Binder being in there now. Just because he's South African and he's in there now. Football, I've soccer now because you're American, or in America. I watch soccer every now and then, but or the European soccer, but because I'm very big in FIFA, I love playing FIFA, so I know what's going on in there. Other than that, the Olympic Games. I love watching the Olympic Games. Everywhere where South Africans compete, I watch. I want to watch that, but not big in other sports really. You might catch me watching a T20 every now and then, a Protea T20. IPL, I used to be into that as well for a long time, but also kind of, this is taking all my attention. Rugby's everything to me. You do not want to be in conversations in Bloemfontein about the Cheetahs. People in Bloemfontein are furious. There's a lot of petitions being signed, a lot of people like posting videos on social media, a lot of people a lot of people actually going into the newspapers and writing stuff and all that type of stuff. So it's very strange actually that that type of stuff is happening, because like I said, usually social media following isn't big for the Cheetahs, but it's bigger now since Frans Steyn and those bigger guys have arrived. The Cheetahs have kind of upped their social game as well. Grant, we have electricity over here. It's just, I'm sitting by candlelight, okay? It's just because it's limited. No, I'm joking. It's actually a LED light, but no, it's not. It's just the agricultural community in the middle of the country where there's almost nothing. We're very far from any other cities as well. It's almost like Kansas, like Abra knows. It's far from other places, but it's not like that. It's still a city, Grant. I know you're in the desert. What are you guys doing in the desert? Is it are you in the middle of the sand, or are you in a big skyscraper over there? Okay, but yeah, it's interesting, all the different communities and how everything actually does happen, that the teams do get followed. But I think the Cheetahs do have some of the most loyal supporters you can find, and that's why they have kind of taken to social media, and petitions are massive at the moment. Like, I think I was sent 3 or 4 petitions this week because I'm from here. I think some of you might have gotten petitions as well or saw it on Facebook. Everyone's sending out these petitions over here, so it's quite interesting and it's quite wild over here. Everyone's very angry. But how that actually is going to reflect into the rest of our rugby is going to be interesting, because what's going to happen firstly to Grey College, because the Cheetahs is a big place where all our teams or all our players do go to from Grey College. And in the Shimlas, a lot of the Shimla players did go into the Cheetahs now as well. So it has detrimental effects on them. Hi, Marius, how are you doing? Enjoying your evening? Places to visit, all the mainstream places. Grant would tell you Cape Town's an amazing place to visit. Durban, a lot of people like Durban. I don't like Durban. I think it's a bit too sticky. I'm from the Free State. There's literally no humidity over here, so there's a lot of humidity in Durban. But I would actually go to smaller places that's a little bit more less traveled. Yes, Cheetos and and Argentina, they've been screwed over. That's also one thing I forgot to talk about. The Jaguares, they're done. I can't see what they're gonna do after this. All of their players are gone. All of their big name players. I think I saw a list the other day that out of the starting 15 players that played against the Crusaders last year, only 2 of them are left at the team, and they are actually in contract negotiations to leave as well. So yeah, I don't know. After what the Jaguares actually brought Argentinian rugby up a little bit, or a lot. So I don't know what's going to happen with Argentina after this now as well. Yeah, Chester, the Cheetahs do belong there, but what can we do? It's SA Rugby's decision. Now we can just hope that the other teams do well over there. I I do think they'll probably struggle more than they think. A lot of people do. It's actually funny to me. in the comment sections of a lot of social media, a lot of people do think like, okay, no, now South Africa's gonna go win the Pro 14 straight up. Other teams don't stand a chance. But I don't know. I watch Pro 14 a lot, and I don't know. Leinster and Munster, Ulster, the Irish teams, they're very strong. They're favourites all the time to win. I can't think that South Africa's just gonna straight up come in first season win it, because it's different conditions. It's not Super Rugby type of play. It's slower over there. The weather's different. Every team has a different culture and different style of play. I don't know. I don't think our South African teams are just gonna go in and win it from the start. I really think it's probably gonna be a little bit of an adjustment period. I don't know which team is actually going to be favorites to go in there. I think if I had to pick a team, I think the Bulls with Jake White would probably do pretty well in Europe. Not that he's coached there a little bit with Montpellier and so on, but he hasn't coached in Ireland as far as I know. But with that forward dominant pack, that's just the type of rugby that would do well in Ireland, I think. So I do think they could do well. The Pro 14 now is expanded to the Pro 16, so it's 2 more teams. So the unfortunate thing is the Kings and the Cheetahs were cut, and they brought the Bulls, the Lions, the Sharks, and the Stormers in. So great. Well, I would say it's a great decision from SARU in a money perspective, just for those 4 teams, but for the Cheetahs to be cut is not a great decision. In a perfect world, SA Rugby would have had all 5 teams in there, I would have said. That's my opinion. All 5 teams should have been in there, but it's kind of the limit that Pro 14 did set, or Pro Rugby did set them, that they can only have 4 teams. My ideal situation, let me just bring it up quickly because it's probably going to block most of me. My ideal situation for South African rugby would be to have Super Rugby like it was. When it was Super 12, I actually loved it. It was one of the best competitions in the world. But to have more money in it, so to have it more of a commercial value to it. So maybe have a couple of more Northern Hemisphere teams or players in the teams, so that there's more of a Northern Hemisphere viewership as well. Getting the TV rights, the broadcasting rights, getting that sorted out so that everyone can watch it, so that you get more people interested in the game, so that everyone in South Africa is interested in the game at the end of the day, because the viewership ratings in South Africa is up to scratch at the moment. I hardly know anyone that still watches rugby on like a weekend basis. They watch maybe every month once. So that would be my ideal, if we could have stayed in Super Rugby and that competition could have been sorted out. But we know that's done. It's not going to happen. So my new ideal is, or would have been, for Pro 16 to be Pro 17. I don't know how it would have worked with an uneven number, or get the Cheetahs at least in there. Like Chester also said, all 5 SA teams should be in the Pro 14. I would have liked that to be my ideal, but that's also not going to work. So, yeah, nothing's ideal at the moment. Nothing's going to work out ideally, but I think it's going to have to be considered a little bit more commercial. A little bit money has to be considered in a pro sport. In a professional environment, money has to be considered, because if you look at places like Australia, why don't players actually go and play rugby union? Because they can get money in a different sport. So if you're a very sporty person, you're good in sport, but you have a different sport that you're also very good in, you'll probably end up following the money because you're good in it. You can do that as well. So rugby union has completely fallen down over in Australia. It doesn't mean much over there anymore. So they're building up again with those youngsters. But for me, I think getting those broadcasting rights sorted, first things first. If at least 1 or 2 Pro 14 games or Pro 16 games next season can be played on open air television. So in South Africa on SABC2 or so. If it can be played on the SABC, 1 or 2 games, so people can just be interested or see what it's all about, that's going to already bring the interest back into the game. So for me, we're just in a big blockage at the moment in South Africa. I mean, for me to watch, just to watch rugby, I have to pay a big DSTV subscription. And we can talk about this as well. DSTV costs almost R1,000 a month, and I use it only to watch sport. I don't watch anything else. I maybe now and then, but most of the time I'm just there for sport. And that's blocking a whole viewership in rugby, especially because that's the sport we're talking about. There's a whole list or a whole group, a whole community of people that does not get access to rugby in our country, and I think that needs to change, or at least have some of the games broadcasted on open air television or YouTube or something. Because I think I read stats the other day, and that was on Rugby Pass, that the competitions that have moved, and this is in all sports, in America, the Major League Baseball is one of the sports that was the biggest in the country at a time. But because they had a blockage in streaming the stuff online, free for all to see, youngsters didn't find interest in it anymore, and then kind of went into other sports. And that could happen over here in South Africa as well. Varsity school rugby in SA. In South Africa, I wouldn't say, let me keep that up a little bit while longer. In South Africa, I wouldn't say that a varsity or school rugby is bigger than our provincial rugby. I wouldn't say that at all. But it is big amongst a big group of people. If you go to varsity, and I work at a varsity, I know a lot of people say I look like I am still in a varsity, but I work at a varsity, and the following over there is massive. I work at CUT, Central University of Technology, and over there the following is massive, and the stadium is packed every single week. Doesn't matter if we lose every single game, it's packed. It's streamed over on DSTV as well. That should change as well. That should be on YouTube or something like that. So amongst a group of people, it's massive, and that gets people interested in rugby. So amongst varsity students, a lot of them don't even watch like provincial rugby, but a lot of them watch Varsity Cup and then watch the Springboks because they like rugby, because they like watching it. So yeah, it's big. School rugby, on the other hand, it's massive. It's massive if you go to the tier 1 teams. If you go to like Grey College versus these other massive teams like Monument, those teams, that's massive rugby, but it's not bigger than your normal rugby or your provincial rugby. Sorry. That I think that is gonna happen, Chester. I do think that's gonna happen. I think I said it earlier, but it was very early. So there's talks of a Super 8 now happening where the Cheetahs are gonna join. So it's 3 Australian teams, 3 New Zealand teams, and then an Argentinian and a South African team. Or there's also talks over 2 New Zealand teams, 2 Australian teams, 1 South African team, 1 Argentinian team, a Japanese team, and then 1 other team. I think a Pacifica team, so like from Fiji or something like that. There are talks about that. There's a Super 8 competition that they are talking about. Yes, there's plans for the Cheetahs. Unlike the Kings, there's no plans whatsoever for them. But I don't know, man. It kind of feels like just a backup plan for them. It doesn't feel like a actual great tournament to watch. To me, as a follower and a big guy that needs to analyze the games and wants to post videos on YouTube and tell you what I think about the games, at the moment, I feel like I'd probably not be too interested in posting videos about that tournament. I could be wrong. The thing could change up a little bit, but at the moment it doesn't feel. It feels like they're going to be placed in a second string tournament. But the Western Force, interesting take on them. It talks about them either joining the Super 8 or joining Super Rugby Aotearoa in New Zealand next year, which was interesting to me because a lot of people won't rate them at all because they are like the lowest ranked team in Australia after this whole AU season they had. But they had a good season actually. I thought they were close in a lot of games, and they're bringing in big names. I think they brought in Currie now, and they brought in Rob Carney from the Irish side. They brought him as well. Marius, see here. Oh man, so you're actually up very late at this moment as well. Well, thanks for tuning in at this time in the morning at your in Australia over there. I think that is actually keep it up. I keep taking off. I think it is actually a big problem, the broadcasting times. But over here in South Africa, the broadcasting times are difficult to change, especially if we play in summer. It's impossible to play earlier. If you play at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock at evening or afternoon game, it's very hot. You can play it, but you're not going to get a very good classy type of performance. It's a very hot game, a lot of sweat on the ball as well. It's just uncomfortable. It's, injuries do happen as well. I read another report as well sometime about injuries happening more when a game is played in the heat when it as to compare to when it's played in a little bit cooler conditions. So that's one of the big problems over here in South Africa in summertime. Wintertime though, when Super Rugby is usually played in the end of summer over here, then it goes into winter. I think if we had Super Rugby still, that would have been an ideal. Uh, Pro 14 or Pro 16 next year, they're talking about a March start, and they're already talking about our South African teams playing in that one. So we could actually have different starting times, but I don't know. Our people don't really like change, but if you want more people to watch, you need to change those times. But then again, on the other hand, if you want more people to watch, you need to change your broadcasting rights and that type of stuff as well. So it's a lot of weird stuff in South Africa that they need to change if they want more people to watch. Ah, good point, Chester. Great point, actually. I think to have that other team in between levels, in between the top level and kind of your in between or your lower level is a good level to have. That was supposed to be the Cheetahs and the Kings. The Kings kind of disappointed hugely in that respect because of their management, not because of the players. The players are brilliant. They are brilliant players over there. And I think if they were better management, better facilities, better salaries, better all of that stuff, the Kings would have been brilliant. And that's a good point. I do think that's something that could work, and a good. I respect that opinion. I respect that there has to be another level in South Africa. For a lot of years, our other level was kind of our provincial teams because we have our franchises, and then we have our provincial teams that play in the Currie Cup and the Vodacom Cup and that type of stuff. That's our different levels. But I think to have like the Cheetahs in that in between level is a good place to have them. But yeah, I think what happens if that in between team grows? What happens if they are good enough now to compete with the upper level teams, which have kind of happened now? What happens when you can say, okay, but if you compare the Lions and the Cheetahs, which team is better at this moment? What happens at that stage? And I think that's a problem with having that in between team. Yeah, I agree. That summer rugby thing in South Africa can be pretty dangerous, and that's what we're gonna have now. It's this Currie Cup or this Super Rugby and Currie Cup is gonna go over the heat of summer. It's gonna be it's gonna be horrible for the players. Yeah, well, That would be a brilliant combination. Brilliant combination. What do you think about, Matthew? What do you think about putting John Luke at the lock, where he has been playing now for a while at Sale, bringing in Dan du Plessis at the number 8, and having Marcel and Jacques Vermeulen there? That could be a different combo, I think. A good combo as well, because John Luke, you want him on the park with that handoffs. You want to have him over there. He's been brilliant this season. I really do think so. Akker van der Merwe, Rugby Championship, has to be there as well. You'll probably be joined by Ntubeni. What do you think? Ntubeni and another youngster, maybe Erasmus or Richardson. Yeah, I'm glad you agree. Glad someone agrees with my stuff. Jason Jenkins. Yeah, Jason Jenkins. Grant would not agree with you at all. Grant is not a big fan, apparently, of Jason Jenkins. I don't know why. I like him. My guy I don't like is Marvin Orie. I don't know. He always looks like he wants to fight. He always looks like he wants to hurt someone on the park, that type of stuff. But yeah, I like Jason Jenkins as well. I think him being back with Sintu Manjesi at the Bulls, that's going to be one of our big next pairings in the Springboks. Watch my words. I really do think so. Let's just get back to that question or that thing. That's not bad. Do you know how cheap that is? We pay 4 times more than that over here to watch sport. Oh, well, you would know. You're a South African, but yeah, that's ridiculous. I actually checked after watching a 2 Cents video. I actually I emailed him a bit and I talked to him a bit about it. ESPN Plus is a very viable option. Very viable option. I think it costs like $5 a month, and then most of the sport is there on live streaming and on catch up. I was just scared to do that with the whole Super Rugby connection and the blockages there and stuff. But now that we're joining the Pro 14 and the Pro 14 always being on that ESPN Plus, I think I'll probably go for that. I was just scared maybe with internationals as well. Yeah, good point, Chester. Good point. When the Cheetahs become too good, the other teams steal their players. And do you know why that happens? I don't know if everyone knows this, but the Super Rugby teams get a higher funding than the Pro 14 teams. Even though all of them are classified as franchises, the Super Rugby teams get a higher funding than the Pro 14 teams. So they can't afford to pay their players that big salary. That's why guys like Pokamela, he just stayed, but Manjesi, he left. Dweba, he left. Those big players, they leave. So I think that's a big thing over there. And the best part over there, if you look at the money you get back from the 2 tournaments, they're basically the same. Pro 14, maybe a little bit higher as well, especially if you do well. So if I were South Africa, I would have earlier or already put more money into the Cheetahs, but now it's too late. They decided the Cheetahs are out. Yeah, I think that's probably a good point. Yeah. I do think that local players will probably get the first shot at the chances, but Rassie won't send a team that all are debutants. I can't think that he would do that. I think some of those names, Marcel Coetzee especially, because he missed out on the World Cup. I think, was he injured? He missed out because of that. He would definitely go. I can't see why he won't go. Janssen van Rensburg. They've been talking him up as well. I think he could go as well. So I think overseas guys could stand a chance to fill up the local players because they are a little bit younger. So do you think they do have a chance there? Yeah, Grant, I know you don't like him. I don't know. I don't like Marvin Orie because I don't know if you ever watched that under-21 game where he broke Schickling's neck. Look, in that game, I didn't like him. I was younger and stuff, so I tried to forgive the guy, but then he's just this guy that always wants to fight and stuff like that on the park as well. So that also makes it hard for me to like the guy as well. But I'm pretty sure I just have a little bit of bias against him. So yeah. Yeah, we actually spoke about this a little bit earlier about joining the Cats and joining the Cheetahs and the Lions as a Cats team. We kind of reached the conclusion that on paper it's a good idea. The two teams do play similar styles of rugby, but if you look into the past of how it went, it didn't go well. The Cheetahs were screwed over the whole time. They didn't get any home games at all in the Super 12 in those years. So at the end of the day, if they do join each other again, the Cheetahs will still be the team that's looked down upon. This is a good question. I wanna see the answer to this as well. I know you guys are starting to play rugby. There's sevens is there all the time, so there has to be some clubs, right? Or it's just the money that talks over there for the sevens to go over there? Marcel Coetzee injured again? I have no idea. No idea. Sorry about that. You can tell me if you know. Yeah, I agree, Marius. I think a year or two ago, I started watching rugby league games now and then, really watching them to try and see what is the fascination about it? Why do people want to watch it? What's the big deal about it? And I could just not find it. To me, it was just not the same thing. To me, it's just running straight, isn't it? It's running straight all the time, passing, running straight, and after a couple of times of running straight, you give the ball back, they kick it, and then it's just not that fun to me. But does that come back to the point of it just gets broadcast all the time? You can find more stuff about it. It's not behind a paywall, as you can say, with Union. I don't know. I know there's a whole cultural thing in New Zealand about the richer kids played Union and the poorer kids played League, and that kind of split the two groups for a while. But I don't know what the whole explanation in Australia is. I think people are just drawn to where there's crowds. How do you get crowds? You make a fun environment. How do you make a fun environment? You get with the times and do what people want to do. If they want to see games for free, they're gonna find it for free. If they can't, they'll watch a different sport. Okay, so he is playing tonight. Thanks for the feedback, Marcel Coetzee there. Yusuf for rugby, the closest rugby we have here in Lebanon. Decent rugby league team. Man, but we just spoke about rugby league. Is it rugby union though? Not really. It's not the same. Do you know one of the things I really love about rugby union? It is honestly a game for all. Everyone can play rugby. Well, a game for all shapes and sizes. Let me rather phrase it like that. Rugby union, all of the players kind of look the same. They have the same kind of stature. The one guy is just a little bit more bulky than the other guy, but further than that, they're kind of the same. I don't know. Don't want to hate too much on rugby league. I know there's a lot of people that love both of them. In South Africa, rugby league isn't big at all, so it's kind of easy for us not to like it. It's not big at all. I think in South Africa, if you had to rank rugby related sports, you'll probably rank like our franchises, then our provincial teams, then our varsity cup teams, then our school rugby teams, then you'll rank like grade one rugby teams, then you'll start watching rugby league. That's how low it is over here. No one watches rugby league. You don't hear of it. So yeah. Oh, that's interesting to see. I actually think that's a sport that would be easier for Americans to fall in love with because it kind of has similarities in a way. Yeah, you actually said because of its similarities. They play with downs and that type of stuff. So, or not downs, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. So I could see rugby league fluctuating or getting more of a fan base in the USA. I think USA, don't quote me on this, but maybe a couple of decades down the line now, they might be bigger in rugby league. Hmm. Yeah. Well, look, maybe if they had like indoor facilities where the conditions are like controlled, climate is controlled. What then, Chester? I would actually want to know this. If the conditions are controlled, do you think the people would actually love the game and want to watch the game and want to play the game? Or what's your opinion on that? That would really be something that I would want to hear in this chat now. Great question. Great question. I thought I might get a question like this. To me, being a massive Stormers fan, and I mean a massive Stormers fan, and being a massive Springboks fan as well, I don't think that Khaleesi is the best six in this country. But hear me out. I want to argue a point that Rassie said. Rassie said he wanted to pick for the World Cup, especially he wanted to pick the right people for the job. And I honestly think having Khaleesi at as our captain was the best move he could have ever made. And Khaleesi isn't a horrible player. He's probably one of the best number sixes. He's not the best number six, but he's one of the best number sixes. So to me, that was one of the best decisions of his life. Khaleesi, Rassie. I Having a different captain, I don't know how things would have panned out actually, really, because of the support that the country did give them. Khaleesi is a fetcher, but at the Stormers they do use Kitshoff as a massive fetcher. Khaleesi, what he does really well is he's a very dominant tackler. He does like running on the wing as well. He is actually quite movable. So he does play a different kind of role than other players. And at the Stormers, they kind of do it well where they have a good fetcher at number 6 and 7 and 8. So it's kind of all over the park. And at the Springboks as well, when you have Dwayne Vermeulen on the park, do you actually need a fetcher at number 6, or do you need another guy to tackle, or what? So that's a difficult one, but I agree. I think we have other options. Myself could see probably topping that list. Kwagga Smith is good as well, but I think it was a great choice to actually have Khaleesi in there. Sorry, I'm getting slow on the answers there. First rugby league game I watched was when. Yeah, Grant, that's actually, I heard someone saying this one time. They said rugby league is kind of like rugby union, but just taking out all the boring bits and just playing that. So taking out the scrums, taking out all of that stuff and playing that. And it kind of is like that, but to me, it's still not rugby union. Understand? It's still not to me the same thing. Yeah, just to get back to that quickly, I agree completely with that. John Smith was the correct decision at that time to have as a captain. Uh, I don't think I think Bismarck was probably a little bit better, but John Smith was the right call as the captain over there. Sorry, two countries. It's not a national sport. And counties. Sorry, I was confused there. Yeah, I actually saw you guys have quite a little bit of rugby league, but it is counties that play there, and like a Canadian team, the Toronto team does play there as well. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. League is gaining popularity in USA. Yes, I'm also very happy about that. The USA is a team that we need to have, or a country we need to have growing the game, because to me, honestly, the money that they have over there and that they could uh, get into our game is something we have to tap into. Soccer in the women's side over there is going well. In the men's side, it's not doing that well. So I think because it's not an American type of sport, so I think rugby could really grow in there. I really need to catch up with these sponsors. I actually thought that the other day as well. I actually thought that the other day as well. I, you just don't see him pass a lot, but his offloading game is very good. His bumping game is exceptional. He has a brilliant step on him. Of course, he could make a good number 13, I think, as well. Yeah, you said the other time that you tried to explain union to some of your friends over there in the desert, and it was just impossible. And that, that is honest. Like me trying to explain rugby to my girlfriend, every time we watch the game, I need to explain a new rule to her or a different rule to her because it's just impossible to keep up with it if you're a new fan. You kind of need to learn it over the ages. You were a VFB fan. How does that change? Why aren't you a fan anymore? You're supposed to still be one. I really think you should convert back, Chester. I know you're pretty adamant about the Cheetahs, but yeah, you're from England. Who do you actually support? Like Bath or what? Sale? Wasps? I don't know. Let's see. Big set up like the Premiership could work in SA if the weaker unions were strengthened a bit. Yes, definitely it would work. Um, I think if South Africa did want to have like a domestic competition with just our teams strengthen up everything a little bit, we need a little bit of money first. And to get that money, you need to get that broadcasting rights fine, get all of that stuff right. And that's the problem. And I don't think that's going to be sorted out. But a round robin competition in South Africa, people love a round robin competition. I can already tell you by knowing how the Pro 14 conference system works, it's very confusing. South Africans aren't going to love it. Like most South Africans don't really know how the Pro 14 conference system works with the two conferences, and you play two games here, but play one game on the other side, and that type of stuff. People are going to hate it. People are not going to be big fans of that competition format at because they're going to be like, okay, if you play more games against your own country, that means we are in a worse position because we are South African and the South African teams are stronger. That type of stuff. It's just that type of weird conference is just it doesn't work well with most fans. Hi, that's quite interesting. Abra, from where are you actually? Are you actually from America, or where are you actually from? Because Nasser is actually a surname from one of the Reds players. I know that. Just interesting to me. So, did you learn it from there, or like from parents, friends, that you learned Union in America first? That's quite interesting to me because you would think that you'd learn American football firsthand. Or yes, I do agree there as well. Mm, I agree. I agree, Grant. Kulisi, one of the things he does brilliantly is he never has an off day. He never has an off day, and that's the type of player you want on an international stage. He never plays a bad game, and he can play 6, 7, and 8. Kinda, he never does. I know they kind of played him at number 8 sometime in earlier this season, right? If I remember it correctly. But he's kind of a mix. He's a mix. He's a yeah. He's a 6.5. He's not a traditional pitcher. In South Africa, people look at a 6 as a traditional pitcher. That's it, and nothing more or nothing different. And it's different over in the newer game. He's 10 times less popular than he is. Thank you for saying that. That's a great point. I actually wanted to talk about the video game. Has any one of you played the Rugby Challenge game yet, the new one? I haven't gotten myself to play it yet because all of the videos I see of people playing it, the other rugby play or rugby channels that play it as well, the game just doesn't sell it to me because I'm a big FIFA player. I play every night. I play it all the time. I like the career mode. I love how it's set up, all that type of stuff. We need that type of game in rugby. And if we had a game like you said, if we had a proper game, we would probably have more people supporting rugby or watching rugby in different countries. So in everywhere, because this is actually a funny story. I think I have said it before, so I'm just gonna go quickly through it. I learned soccer through FIFA. I didn't know the sport. When I was a kid, I bought a FIFA game just because I like sport, bought it, learned soccer. Done. You could do that with rugby as well. Going back to bed. Well, enjoy your bedtime, man. I think you've probably gone already, Marius, but have a good sleep there. It is pretty late for you, so hopefully tomorrow isn't a struggle for you. Hopefully you didn't drink till now or something, so hopefully you enjoyed it. You balance the teams in terms of strength. Sorry, should do the same. Yes, I've also thought about that, and honestly, that's a great solution. New Zealand is spot on with their choice, but South Africa is very traditional with how it works. It isn't like you just spread out. The unions or the SARU won't have too much of a say. The franchises hate being said what they should do and who they should sell and who they should have and all that type of stuff. So I think it would be brilliant if we had all our teams at the same strength. It would be brilliant. And I mean, it's not like New Zealand is the teams are still at the same strength. I mean, the Crusaders, they have the same amount of big players every single year, but every year they have new players that just come up every time. So I think that would be brilliant over there. But my family is from cricket fan, yes. Yeah, but it's still strange. It's still strange that you learned. Oh, you learned the rules of union first. You watched football. Okay, I understand. Yeah, cricket would be big. Any Bangladesh person loves the cricket. So you probably love your Bangladesh team. You would probably love it if the USA were a little bit bigger in cricket as well. Okay, yeah, good point. He isn't a good out option at all. He's not at all. But if you have a guy like Pieter Steph de Toey in your team, Dwayne Vermeulen gets up in the line out as well every now and then, along with Eben Etzebeth and Lothar Jager and that type of guys. You need Kulisi as well. So yeah, it's all about balance from team to team. If we didn't have Pieter Steph de Toey and Vermeulen and probably two of the best locks or four of the best locks in the world, this conversation could be different. And I would probably also side with probably having a little bit of a taller, more of a jumping option at number 6. Support Bath now, but when Cheetahs leave Pro 14, join, I can be a Stormers fan again. Yes, okay, another Stormers fan. Awesome. Great stuff, Chester. Then I'm happy. Welcome aboard on the Stormers train. Okay, so that's where your exposure came from. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, older rugby games, brilliant. I think Grant set it down here as well. Rugby 08, they should have went with it. EA should have went on with their game. I played Rugby 08 till like 2013 with mods that I just kept on adding on. You can still do that, by the way. I checked the other day just for interest sake. But yeah, you could easily, easily play Rugby 08 still, and it's still better than these new games. So if EA did go into that avenue, there'd be a lot of people that did buy the game, and I wish they did see it like that, because rugby fans really are hungry for an EA Sports game, and it's just not happening. It's just not happening. Yeah, no, I agree. The other day there was, I think it was just before the World Cup, there was a little bit of like a line out throwing contest between two ex hookers. I think it was, who was it? It was John Smith and who's the other guy? It was on SuperSport, and they challenged a guy. He's also a commentator on SuperSport, but his name's escaping me now for some reason. Then they threw in, and John Smith, he was still pinpoint with those stuff, and yeah, he's brilliant. Uh, Adrian Strauss, also a brilliant thrower, and that's why he was always in the mix. He was also a very busybody on the park as well, so that's why we always have brilliant hookers in this country. I mean, at this moment we have Marks and Bunambi, who are brilliant, in my opinion. Both of them are the same caliber. For a change in this country, we don't know which one is better than the other one. We always had two hookers, and we knew that one is better than the other one. But at the moment, I think both of them are even. I really do. Uh, yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's what I keep saying as well. Because South Africa is in this whole blockage of broadcasting, it does take away from our fans, and it does take away from people that want to watch these games. There's so many people that would want to tune into this game, even if you aren't a South African or a Springbok supporter, but they can't tune into this game. I know the game is being broadcasted though in Australia. It is going to be shown on Kayo, and then it is going to be shown on Sky Sport in the UK. But that's it, nothing else. I have no. Yeah, it was shimmy. Thanks. That's 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 the thing to me. If we get the broadcasting a little bit better, and some of the games, at least like this game, it's a friendly game. There's not much on the line. Come on, SuperSport, open it up. Just one game on YouTube, I think you'll get the biggest viewership of your life if you did get that shown there. So I don't know. And getting that on there, maybe you get more people to buy DSTV at the end of the day. I don't know. I'm not a marketer, but man, this the blockage I think does pose a problem for us. And I think with a Pro 16, they have to kind of reevaluate their things again. They have to reevaluate how they do block everything in this country, that people don't get to see all the games that they want to see. Yeah. Oh, and thanks here for telling me it's Shimmy. It was Shimmy. I did think of him. I saw the face. I saw him. Just could not think of the name. So thanks for telling me that as well. Guys, what do you still want to talk about? I have gotten a couple of predictions in for tomorrow's game. Grant, you said by 12, but I haven't gotten the other guys. I haven't gotten your predictions in for tomorrow's game yet. I have gold by 10. I have them by 10. They just have a better team for me. I can put this up again here. That they just have the better team to me. I think when you go to the front row, they're better in the gold team. Not that the green team is bad, but I'd go with gold just because of Kitsov. He outscrummed the Lions last week. Second row, that's a pretty even battle. I like that Murat versus Schikkeling. I like that one is a big one because it's two Stormers against each other. Green pack versus gold backs. Yeah, I agree. The front row, De Bruin versus Kitsov. I don't know how De Bruin will do against Kitsov. I honestly have no idea. I don't know too much about De Bruin, so I don't know how you would do. Nche versus Dreyer. Nche might have the upper hand there. Mbunambi versus Ntubeni. That's going to be a good one. But those loose forwards, that's a good competition because that 6, 7, 8 combo with Kulisi, Botha, Vermeulen at Team Green. That's a brilliant combination. We have Van Staden and then Carr and Noche. That's kind of the guys that want to push themselves into the Springbok spot. So they want to get there. Let's quickly get to this one. I don't like American football as much, but I feel connection because I have gone to games since I was little. Penke is a guy from the Kings, by the way. I'll get to him now. Getting to that connection thing, I kind of support teams in leagues if I like a player a lot just because of the type of person he is. I kind of follow them. So maybe try and do that. If you look at the gold team forwards, a lot of those players know each other from their time at the Stormers. Yes, that's for sure. Because I mean, Ka and Noche, they're Stormers as well. So basically, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Stormers in that front back. That's a very Stormers orientated front back. But the other team have 4 Stormers, or 4 current Stormers. Also, Vermeulen is also a past Stormer. So that's 5 Stormers in total, actually. So it's pretty packed over there. But those loose forwards, I would really want to see how they go up against each other. Too late to call Duan van der Merwe. Duan van der Merwe, he can still be called. He hasn't got a cap for Scotland yet at all. But he's made his allegiances known. He has said that he wants to play against the Springboks in this Lions tour next year, which I'm going to, by the way. I got my tickets, so yes. Don't know about any of you other guys that are maybe from South Africa. He has made his allegiances known, but he could go, or he could play for the Rugby Championship, but I don't think he would. I think, honestly, he's made his plan to kind of play for Scotland now. What I wanted to say, one of the big matchups, which is going to be interesting, is how Yar goes up against Spickman. But Penke, who is a Kings player, the only Kings player in this whole team, he's a guy to look out for. If you haven't seen him playing yet, he's a guy to really look out for. He's dangerous. He's still young. I think he's 22 or 23 years old. Could make a Springbok break. That would be the ultimate. If the Kings that were liquidated, this guy's probably not even getting paid to play this game because they have no money to pay him. And he does go through to get a Springbok cap in the Rugby Championship. That would be brilliant. Look, there is a lot of injuries and stuff on the wingers. A lot of the Sharks players are injured. Without that, would probably not have even had the chance, but hopefully he does grab it with both hands. He's a brilliant player. I do like him. Yar, he's an ex-Kings player, so they basically have 2 Kings in their team because Yar, he moved over to the Cheetahs just in this year, so he's quite new to them. Played for the Kings as well. Was there on a loan. So yeah, they know each other. Knows Penke, I think, hopefully. Yeah, guys, so I still need predictions over there. Rugby Championship, what do you guys think is going to happen over there? What do you think? Is South Africa going to go to the tournament? Do you think it's a good idea for us to go to the tournament? That's the bigger question. I think we spoke about it a bit earlier. If South Africa does end up going, missed his flight. Oh yeah, the guy who missed his flight. Sorry, before I go into that, something special as well. Really wanted to see how. I also would have wanted to see how Currie Arends went. He would have been brilliant. I mean, I think he scored 2 tries for the Bulls last week, and he was superb. He just played that running game, stepped everyone in front of him. He cut real brilliant lines. He would have been a great pick and would have been brilliant in here. I don't know what happened at the end. It almost seemed like when I read some of the speculations and some of the articles behind it, it kind of looked like he probably missed it because of his own negligence. So I don't know. Don't know what happened there at the end of the day. We'll try his luck in 1500 again. He's currently in the 7 setup. Zane Davids. He's at the Bulls, isn't he? Zane Davids is the one without the hair, right? He is at the Bulls. As far as I know, he went with a loan to the Bulls. Sorry, let me quickly Google here in the background. Someone can maybe tell me as well. Zane Davids moved to the Bulls. Yeah, no, he's at the Bulls at the moment. He's gonna be playing. He's gonna be playing for them this season. So I want to see how that's gonna go. First of all, where is he gonna play? I don't actually know where Zane Davids fits in on a 15-man code, because probably flanker, but he could easily be a center, easily. But I don't know. Could be a winger as well. Sorry, you see that SA and Argentina. I also doubted Argentina. Argentina actually listed their team today. They announced their 45-man squad. It was just before this live stream, so I didn't actually get a chance to actually go through it. But Imhoff is in it, and he hasn't played for them in 5 years, and he was brilliant when he used to play for them. So looks like they still in it to play, and they haven't played domestic rugby at all. They didn't, not even playing against each other. Half of their teams or players are playing in Europe at the moment now as well. So I don't know. It looks like they're still going ahead. I don't know about South Africa. Yeah, South Africa won't send their best players to the championship. That's also what I'm hearing. Looks like they kind of send a younger team or players that has to push for the Lions selection next year. Looks like that's what they want to do for this whole rugby championship. But who knows? Some of these European guys are also pushing to get into Lions selection, and that's why I think they might also get picked, because Rassie wants to keep his options open. He always talks about spreading the net wide. He always talks about that. So it looks like he still has a big role in the squad when it comes to making picks and stuff like that. He said he's not going to be the kind of guy that just runs things in the background and doesn't have any role in the team. Not go. It depends on if Australia and South Africa both open their borders. Yes, it looks South Africa's borders are open. I didn't see Australia on the no-fly list, but that was on the fly for leisure list. So this is for sport/work, so it could still happen. The Australians did get the rights to host this whole thing, so I think the government already gave them the go-ahead to host this whole thing and let the guys come in and have a whole whole quarantine and then go into the country. So I think the flight thing is more of a stoppage South Africa could pose over here. And yeah, the whole Currie Arends story sounds strange. When I also read it, it was weird to me. Couldn't understand how you would miss a flight like that, a big flight like that. They did say they also booked the earlier flight for him instead of the later flight, so I have no idea what's going on there. It looks as if we're never gonna know what the truth is, but maybe we're getting a lot of leaks. If you ever want to read leaks and news that usually or sometimes isn't completely true about these rugby stuff, Rapport has a lot of it. a lot of it. It's not always the truest news, but yeah, they seem to have a lot of leaks as well. Say why you missed the flight. Yeah, no reason was given. They said they're investigating the reason behind the whole missing of the flight. Great players from the Western Cape offered end up playing for the Bulls and the Sharks. I don't know. It's something that's always bothered me. I don't know why it happens. It's probably connected a lot to this whole mismanagement thing at the Stormers. Probably. Don't know. There's a whole mismanagement thing at the Stormers. Another thing, a more logical thing that I could say is probably a lot of the good players might come up at the wrong time, or they are at the wrong position because there's other players that are already very good. But that's not, I don't think so. VP Rugby just kind of sets their mind on one player, and the other player they just completely ignore. I mean, Andre Pollard, how does that guy slip through your cracks? How does that guy ever go through your cracks? But then on the other hand, Cheslin Colby never slipped through your cracks. So I don't know. I think all the teams have their good and their good players that they just never signed. I think for Western Province, there's probably just the sheer amount of players that are good quality that come through. You're bound to miss a lot of good players. Maybe that's the more decent argument for that. Okay, if I have to go by, I don't have any statistics by it or for it, but if I have to go by people I know, Hooper is also saying the same thing. If I have to go by people I know, I don't know anyone that watches Pro at all. No one, literally no one. I watch it now and then, but I'm also not too big into it. I'm more interested in a game between Leinster and Ulster or Munster than the Cheetahs versus the Kings. Understand? So the Pro 14 isn't big in South Africa. No one actually knows what goes on there. And getting back to the broadcasting issue, not all the games get showed over here. So you can't really follow the whole tournament because it's only a couple of games that get showed over here. So it's not something you can really follow. So because of the broadcasting thing, because you can't watch everything, you just end up watching Super Rugby. At live games in Bloemfontein, I have to say that it's better. The people going to watch the games are better than in what you would expect for like a Super Rugby game or a Currie Cup game in South Africa, or in Bloemfontein. But a lot of them don't really pay. A lot of it comes down to like free student entry, and there's a lot of times there's shows on as well in the stadium or afterwards and that type of stuff. But going down to the rugby itself, it's not a big following in South Africa. If the Cheetahs made the semi-final and the final, though, a lot of people would go, but it won't be a packed stadium like in a Currie Cup situation. Cheetahs fans love the Currie Cup. It's their main source of entertainment. And I think this is probably the same. I believe yeah, I think overall our viewership in South Africa is probably higher in like a overseas Super Rugby game. If two New Zealand teams play, probably more South African fans that watch that game than like Pro 14. Love to see the Springbok players stay and play in Super Rugby Unlocked Currie Cup to strengthen the competition. Look, at the moment, it looks like our best players are going to stay in the Super Rugby Unlocked. And then our up-and-coming stars, unfortunately, is going to go. So guys like Bosch, he's a guy that we would have wanted to see. He's probably going to be there. Nohamba is going to be there. Now that I think of it, the Sharks are going to be hit hard because Noche would probably be there as well. So up-and-coming guys will be there. Augustus, those kind of guys. But the big guys like Kitsoff and Bunambi and Vermeulen, those guys will be in the competition. But I think this year the bigger competition to look out for is going to be the Currie Cup. The Super Rugby or the Super Rugby Unlocked is going to be happening at the same time as the Rugby Championship. So all our attention is probably going to be on the Rugby Championship if it does happen for the box. So we'll probably be watching that in the morning, and then in the afternoon watch a little bit of Super Rugby Unlocked as a side track. But the box are going to be the main thing. But when they come back in November and the Currie Cup starts, that's going to be the best competition. It's going to be literally all the best stars. It's going to be all the upcoming stars. That's going to be literally the best Currie Cup we've seen in years. It's going to be Springbok quality Currie Cup. And then there's talks of literally straight after that, because the Currie Cup's ending in January. Then there's probably going to be a little bit of off season, then a pre-season, and then March is the start of the Pro 16. And it looks like South Africa could already compete in that, depending on the COVID situation at the moment in here, or in South Africa. But it looks like we can already compete in that as well. All the games, sorry, that one. Well, that's so strange. Not all the games are broadcasted, because I heard the South African broadcast deal. Yeah, it is strange to me as well. I think all the games will be broadcasted now. More games have been broadcasted now since DSTV has made like a whole rugby channel for all the games. But I think now with all our teams going into the Pro 14, I think we'll see more games, because I mean, then we'll basically be involved in most of the games. At the moment, most of the games aren't shown. Some of the biggest games aren't shown. The biggest frustration for me is like the biggest French games aren't shown. Like, that's a big frustration. Second division is like, let me tell you, the second division tournament, or it's actually the first division over here. We have the Premier Division, which is the Currie Cup, and then the first division. I think I missed a question there. The first division, the local crowds go out for that. It's full packed. Like if you go to a Falker game or a Griffins game, it's fully packed. Everyone is at those games. Broadcasting, though, not a lot of people watch it. More people watch Varsity Cup than in the first division. Not all the games are shown as well as always, so that's also something to take into account. But when you go to the actual stadiums, they are packed out. Oh no, I did answer that question though. Oh, true. Okay, guys, I'm getting quite hungry now, but if you still want to talk about something, hit me up. It's all about what you guys want to talk about. I want to talk about what you want to talk about. I'm in for a chat. Like I said, I'm in quarantine at the moment, so not much to do on a Friday night. So yes, I think that's going to boost our viewership. I do think so, because every Pro 14 game you watch has South African game or South African players in it. Doesn't matter the team, doesn't matter where they're from. There's South Africans in that game. I do think with all the South African teams going to the Pro 14 or the Pro 16, does mean some of our big stars from Europe might come back as well. Because I think this is going to be a little bit more of a lucrative deal. There's more money in this. There's definitely more money in this. So SA Rugby won't make the switch if there's not more money in it. So more of our big stars will be coming back to South Africa in the near future. I can almost guarantee that. And if they come back for this games or for this teams, there's going to be a lot more people watching the games. The viewership went down in South Africa as soon as all of our big players went out, and you didn't know who the players in each team was anymore. But I do agree with this. With the switch to Pro 14, we're going to see a lot of viewership going up with those games, because you can watch an Irish game, you can watch Munster, and they're full of South Africans. Way more money. Yeah, way more money in pounds and euros, definitely. And especially if you convert it into rands, then it's a lot of money. they're gonna die. They will die. But looks like the Pro 14 is starting now in March. Yeah, I have said that. They're starting in March next year. What is the talk? So that's all winter. That's when our winter just starts. So it's not going to be too hot, but Durban doesn't get very cold. So it's not going to be easy for the Northern Hemisphere teams, but that's they signed the deal. So Durban might be a struggle when you get to the summer, especially at the end of the deal, or the end of the end of my tongue is twisting. At the end of the whole season, then stuff is going to get a little bit different for the Pro 14 teams, especially like the Irish teams and the Welsh teams. They're going to struggle with Durban heat. Yeah, especially the visitors. Visitors enjoy South Africa because South Africa is quite cheap. Because everything else has a stronger, every other country has a stronger currency than that. But to me, us joining the Pro 16 at the end of the day is a better deal. It's the better situation. It was the better choice from SA Rugby. Getting the Cheetahs out is the worst decision, but getting into that competition is probably one of the best deals that SA Rugby could have made, I think. Yeah, I agree with that. That's probably going to be better for everyone. Yeah, definitely. If we could do this every time, like before there's like a rugby championship or something like this, as like kind of a playoffs or a way to get into the Springbok team, that would be brilliant. That would be the ultimate if we had a Springbok showdown every single season. But at the end of the day, would less people watch it, or would it be less hyped up because we haven't watched rugby in a long time and we've never seen this as well? But still, I think people would still love to see it. Interesting point. And there's another point to make with that as well. I do think it's gonna be weird competing against international teams that you don't compete against all the time. I mean, if you compete against all the all the like Welsh teams and Irish teams all the time, but then in an international stage you have to compete against New Zealand. That's a weird mix. It hasn't been done. No country is doing that at the moment, like playing domestically in one hemisphere and internationally in another hemisphere. You can maybe argue Argentina has done that for years, in a sense, but yeah, no team has done that. I think we'd still do well though. But what I wanted to bring up about that, I've also heard a couple of rumors that because we signed that deal to go and play in Europe, that there's talks of us leaving Sansa completely, uh, and not playing here domestic in this international games anymore as well. So, like, if South Africa doesn't compete against New Zealand all the time, every year, couple of times, that's going to be detrimental to our rugby. I know that. Isn't all that hot? I don't think it's hot at all. I think it's compared to like our spring, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, definitely agree. The problem is it's just very short that, and the Pro 16 is probably going to be the whole year. Pro 16 is going to be very similar to like how the the French league goes. It's where some weeks you don't even have your best team because some of your players are playing like in the rugby championship or in the Six Nations or something like that. So it's going to be a very long competition. Well, saying that as well, it does work with conference systems which work very strangely. So who knows if it is going to be longer or not. Yeah, I think, and Grant, you agreed with that as well. That's definitely going to hurt New Zealand that we left. They think they can do it all on their own. Their physicality in that competition was pretty good, but it's not the same that they would have gotten from like playing against South African team physicality. And I think that's going to hurt them a lot at the end of the day because they're getting into a partnership now with literally Australia, which is going down and down in the world rankings. So I don't think they're going to be too good after everything. Or they'll still be New Zealand. They'll still be brilliant, but it might hurt them a little bit. That's happen no matter what. Yeah, later slow games will always happen. So there is a bit of a point in there. I don't know if you guys heard. Just today they announced that the Rugby World Cup 2023 selections will happen in December. I think it was 14 December, and it will happen on the current world standing. So where everyone is at the moment. So with South Africa ranked at the top and New Zealand under them, that will set up us up in different pools. Uh, and usually what happens from that is that the pools are on separate sides of the knockouts as well. So it does kind of set us up to have a collision course with each other in a finals. It's not gonna the next World Cup won't be a World Cup where we meet each other in a like in a pool stage. It will be a quarterfinal, semi-final, or what I suspect from the current world rankings, it will be a final. So if you look at that, that's quite good news actually. But yeah, gonna be ridiculous if that happens because that final is gonna be absolutely insane. Yeah, it is ridiculous that they do this so far out. If you look at all other sports and all other stuff, they do it at the most like 6 months ahead of time. So yeah, I mean, if you know 4 years ahead of time, okay, that's my teams I need to play against, and that's how it's going to pan out. Probably you have 4 years to prepare for your opponent. You think the Rugby Championship is here to stay? I thought Super Rugby was here to stay when they spoke earlier this year about no, we still have a 4-year deal and that type of stuff. Andy Marinos kept on saying everything was fine, everything was fine. I think he said like a couple of weeks ago everything was fine and it wasn't fine. So it's all up in the air. I have no idea anymore. To me, Rugby Championship, I think it would still stay for a couple of years. Especially with New Zealand that's going to play domestically now. I know they know the value in playing against South Africa. They won't just want to break that up. They'll compete in the European Cup if they top the Login Pro 40. No, they won't. The previous deal with the Cheetahs and the Kings said that they won't be able to play in the European Cup, but it would be reevaluated if they ended up in the top of the competition for a couple of years. So I don't know if this deal is a little bit different. They haven't given out too much information because actually the strangest part about all of this, there's no thing signed yet. We aren't in the Pro 14 yet. Uh, SARU said that they're going to advance with talks with the Pro 14 to have our teams in that competition, but it's not signed yet. Nothing's done yet. So I don't know. Depends on what the final deal says at the end of the day. So the worst case scenario is us saying we're going to join that competition, New Zealand making their own competition. We don't get into the Pro 16, and then at the end of the day, everything falls apart. So yeah, that's going to be the worst case scenario. Yeah, I think I agree here. Both want to keep the rugby championship. Yeah, I don't know. Italy, for some reason, they just don't get kicked out of that Six Nations. I think there's probably just they have a good relationship with whoever's in charge because they've never been good in this thing at all. They've never been good at the Six Nation at all. When Mallet was still coaching them, they did well or better, but I don't know. I don't think they'd get kicked. The Six Nation would probably have to expand. I'd like to see it. I would have loved, like this Autumn Nations, I would have loved to see South Africa be in that. Yeah, I would have loved to see South Africa being in that at this moment. Fiji is in it. I would have loved to see us in there as well along those talks. Biggest loser is Argentina. I definitely agree. Argentina, they were on the up. They were definitely getting something special there. I loved watching Argentinian rugby. The Jaguares, I loved watching them. I always supported them. Always wanted them to make an upset, except when they played my team. But I think there's a big loss for them over there. Look, if that does happen, I do think it's we could have a good competition over there. Things could work out, but honestly, I do think we'd probably see a lot of our players go out of the country, especially because we won't have money. The domestic competition won't generate as much money. I think broadcast deal bring that into the equation maybe, but I think there's less money in having a domestic competition. Maybe if you bring other players from other teams, if you kind of do what the English Premiership did, where they're kind of a host nation for a lot of players, and everyone wants to watch that because their players play there. Maybe, but I don't see a lot of money being generated from there. So all our best players would probably be ending up overseas. We'd be watching second string players playing here, and at the end of the day, people will stop being interested in the Currie Cup again because everyone stopped being interested in these other competitions because our best players were overseas. Hooper, I think if the Jaguares joined the MLR, even with the second team they have now, they would absolutely dominate the MLR. No one would beat them. Really think so. Honestly, that's my opinion. They're just very, very good. You can compare them almost to the Crusaders. The Crusaders could beat most countries. I don't think that. I think USA would suffer. Their teams would suffer. They probably have to grow very quickly, though. Yeah, I'd say SLAR, but that's probably even a weaker team, even a weaker team over there. So yeah, he's also saying they would destroy over there. So I don't know. I don't think they're just too good to be stuck in the position they are. Their situation at the moment, they just in the wrong time zone. They're just stuck in the wrong side of the earth. Unfortunately, then they're just gonna have to suffer now because of that. What they need to do is set up a good domestic competition. That's about the only thing they could do, and all their best players are gonna go to Europe again. Honestly, Italy was good when. Oh no, Grant. Okay, yeah, true, true, very good point. I have no idea where they could look. If they had to join the Super 8 competition as well, they'd probably dominate there as well. Because which New Zealand teams are going to join the thing? I don't think it's going to be their best teams. I think it's going to be other teams, the new teams that they make, and like other Australian sides. I really don't think they're going to be doing well in there. And the Jaguares, I don't think they're going to hold their best players for a competition like that. The only thing they're going to hold their best players for is like for a good competition. I know they were very interested in joining South Africa for the Currie Cup for this year and for next year, and that was just shut down as well. So these guys just can't get in anywhere. Based good as super. definitely, I agree, and that's where you need to sort out the money problems because of our money not being as good as the other countries. That's why all our players are leaving. You need to go get your money. If you're a professional player, that's your job. So I have no problem with that. But yeah, if we had all our best players in South Africa, without a doubt, we'd have one of the best leagues in the world, definitely. Yeah, the Jaguares send like a XV team, like their second team, which is stronger than most Super Rugby teams, on my opinion, to the first division, and they absolutely waste these teams. But uh, after an article that I read, they actually make a loss from the competition. It's absolutely just paid by their rugby authorities to get the teams, like, get growth in their systems, because they have to come over here for months and play over here and live over here and all that type of stuff. So that just costs them a lot of money. A lot of teams have more teams to Pro 14 make it better. Uh, Look, the Pro 14 has a different system. I think the whole problem with Super Rugby was it was never geared for more teams. It was never geared that if you add more teams, it's gonna explode or actually handle it. But Pro Rugby or Pro 14 is actually geared for it with a conference system that's been in place for years, and you still play all the teams. It just works very weirdly. But yeah, I think I also wondered about it. If adding more teams will actually not just weaken the side or the tournament. Teams that I think should have been cut, and sorry to say it, I think the Kings being cut from the competition, yes, that is going to improve the competition. I don't think the Kings deserve to be treated like that because it's all all administrative and other issues like that that came down on them. But yes, the Kings should be cut, but that Italian teams aren't living up to the scratch. They should be cut. Bringing in Australian team or South African teams then would make the tournament a lot more up for, like, one of the bests in the world. But I think this competition could be very good. I think it could be very good, but it's gonna be a long stretch. Halfway through, you're probably gonna be forgetting what happened in the first game between you and your other team. Based over here. Yeah, they were actually based over here in the first division, but never in the Currie Cup, the full Currie Cup. And I would have loved to see that. They would have won it, in my opinion. Support teams. Very good point. Like, adding adding some of those teams when they weren't ready was probably a killer. Because I mean, the Rebels, for years they weren't good. Western Force, they didn't live up to it. They only got into it in their last year. Uh, who else? The Kings, they didn't live up to it when they were added as well. Sunwolves uh, didn't do well either. So good point. Good point. 2 times fight between Asia and Europe isn't too bad. The only problem is the opposite seasons. Yeah, I think the opposite seasons is a big problem. The nice thing about it, the very nice thing about it, is that we'll be able to watch all the games because everything's in the same time zones, more or less. Um, but that it's different seasons is a bit of a twist. It makes it interesting. I think it's the only competition in the world, I think, in any sport that's going to be played like that, where you have different seasons from week in, week out, except if you maybe go to golf or something like that. I don't watch golf, so I don't know. Yeah, I agree with that as well. The time zones were a big problem. A lot of people didn't follow all the games because, honestly, in Australia, you could not watch all the games. Australia and New Zealand did not watch South African games because it was 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning over there. And why wake up for that if you don't watch it, players that you know? But for us over here in South Africa, on a Saturday morning, what else are you going to do while eating your breakfast? You're watching those teams play, and you kind of learn the Australian players and that type of stuff. While you have getting your braai ready, you're watching the New Zealanders play. When you're having your braai, the South Africans come out on, and then later on at night, your favorite team is playing. So that's why our time zone worked perfectly for Super Rugby. None of the other countries had a perfect time zone for it at teams. SA Conference, 2 European Conference, 2 Irish, Scottish team each. Keep cross conference derbies. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I actually really wonder what they're gonna do now. I think they might consider having 3 conferences. And I think if they did do that, South Africans would be very, very, very happy with that. If there was like, it's 4 teams. But the thing is, if you have a South African conference and it's 5 teams, who's the unfortunate Scottish team that has to be playing in, or Scottish or Welsh team that has to be playing in South Africa all the time? So that's one thing to consider. But if they did do that, South Africans will be drawn to the Pro 16 immediately, because it would feel like Currie Cup all the time. But yeah, if they did do that, I agree, it would be the final nail in the coffin for Italy, and because their rugby is just not in a good space at the moment, and getting them out of those teams would just, yeah, would just not be good for them. Not that UK, you say, but yeah. Unfortunately, I'm that type of guy that wants them to succeed. I want all the weaker sides and weaker places to succeed, but unfortunately, Italy's been in there for years, and they probably should be kicked out, but they won't kick them out for the new friend that they met over here in South Africa. That would be an interesting one. A 4-conference system. If I think about it, sounds pretty interesting. That Scotland Italy one, that conference is probably one of the poorer ones. Well, actually, Edinburgh and Glasgow, those poor Italians will be suffering in there. But yeah, that could work. The Welsh one, maybe that's more of a weaker conference. I don't know, Chester, what you think about that, but that could work. Do you know how many South Africans would be interested in that competition, knowing that you're watching basically South African rugby all the time, and now and then our teams are traveling, and now and then other teams come here. People would be drawn to that competition immediately. First season only. Yeah, I think for the Aotearoa, I kind of felt that as well for the Aotearoa Super Rugby. For the first couple of weeks, it was okay and fun to wake up at 5 o'clock to watch a game with my dad and so on. But yo, no, later on, it was just not worth it anymore. I just kind of slept a little bit later, kept off of social media, and watched the game on catch up, and then that's it. I did not want to wake up early anymore. Just champions top two going. Yeah, they need to make their own competition, but I really think for rugby standards, to keep your rugby standards up, you need to bring in other countries, and that's how you actually get your standards up. And yeah, Italy, but I think Italy's days are numbered. Doesn't matter what we plan, doesn't matter what we think should be happening. I think their days are numbered, regardless of anything. Their days are numbered. They're just not doing anything at domestic level, at international level. They're just not doing anything. So Italy, I don't think is going to do much for much longer anymore. I hope South African teams can join the Champions Cup, though, the European competition. I hope in this if we get this deal done with the pro rugby, that the South African teams can join the European competition, because that's going to be big. That's going to be very big. I mean, yes, it's going to be tough. I mean, think of like the Stormers versus Toulouse with Colby and that kind of guys. That's going to be horrific. I think that's going to be a brutal affair. But I do think we have good players in this country, and the domestic sides are very good, and we could do some damage in Europe. Top 14. Yeah, I think geographically it would make more sense for them to join top 14, but I think top 14 is maxed out. If they expanded anything, they get from the D2, because they have their two competitions, their first class and their second class, because they just have a lot of good teams, and some of the second teams from that second division would even beat the Italian team. So maybe the Italian teams should join that second division, and that would make sense. Yeah, I think if South Africa could get our teams into that European competitions, it would be like Club World Cup vibes. Then we'd see big things happening over there. I just imagine that games are going ahead, and like the Sharks versus those big guys. Like the Sharks, I wanted to say Saracens, but they're not going to be in there anymore. But like Sharks versus Sail Sharks, that would be interesting. Sharks versus Sail Sharks, because it's basically all their ex-players in there. That would be a big one. It's just for France, yeah, it's just for France. But maybe in the D2, I think the Italian teams could do something in there, but they just don't belong in any of these other bigger leagues where they are at the moment. They just don't seem to belong at the moment. But yeah, I would love to see our South African teams. I would have loved to see our South African teams play against more English teams, actually, because the English teams have a lot of South Africans. Two South African Shark teams. Yeah, because I think I counted the other day the Sail Sharks had 9 or 10 South Africans in their match day 2022. Literally, that's a whole lot. 9 South Africans, and I think 7 of them were ex Sharks players, Natal Sharks players. So that would be big. Uh, some of those European teams are just flipping. If they could play against our South African teams, it would be amazing. I think of like the Bristol Bears against the Bulls. Yeah. Okay, guys, but yeah, I'm getting a little bit tired. I'm getting very hungry now. I think I'm gonna call an end to this. It's been like 2.5 hours. Damn, that's been quite long. I didn't think I'm gonna talk that long, but yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If there's any thoughts that you want to still send them through. But I am gonna log off now. I need to go eat now. So yeah, thanks for chatting, guys. I could probably chat for a long time still, but cheers. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rugby tomorrow if you can watch it. That's going to be amazing. I do appreciate everyone that has watched. If you haven't subscribed yet, I assume most of you have subscribed. I recognize all of you, but hit the subscribe if you haven't. Otherwise, yeah, enjoy all of the rugby this weekend. Let me just read this last couple of comments. Okay. So yeah, Italy is out for there. Okay, cheers, Abrar. Have a good night over there. Or good morning. Yeah, good morning in the USA. Sail Sharks should join the Currie Cup. Yeah, the Sail Sharks everyone would love them. It's all the big names. Okay, cheers, Hooper. I hope you have a great time over there in Canada, I assume, with the flag. Yeah, enjoy your rugby, guys. I really appreciate all of you guys sticking around for a guy chatting for a very long time about rugby with you. It's really fun. Hope we can do it again sometime. If I'm in quarantine for much longer, I'll do it again, definitely. Thanks, Grant. I will enjoy it. Cheers, guys.